Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? Apparently all of the video equipment and sound equipment and everything is up, and it looks like most everybody has some coffee or juice or something to just kind of munch on while we meet. So welcome, good morning. Welcome to the Building Coordinator meeting for June 2015. It's our quarterly meeting. These meetings are intended, of course, always to help provide information to our valuable building coordinators. We work hard to make the agendas responsive to what we think your needs are, but please always know you're welcome to let us know if there's things that you'd like to find out. That's what my role is to try to help keep you informed and keep you in touch. I'm always pleased when I hear that building coordinators, that they interact with our project managers a great deal. If you hadn't noticed, if you haven't on the outage notification, there is now a section that when an outage occurs, we reach out to the building coordinators just to make sure they are aware that we're going to be in their building or there's going to be some sort of outage. It's just a way to make sure that y'all are informed. And the nice thing is actually one of our new building coordinators reached out to me this morning, and I got to meet her. And she was one that for Agnes Arnold Hall was able to say, yes, this one is going to be great because our folks don't come in till 7:30, so the outage won't impact them. But we just like to let everybody know when someone is going to be in their building, kind of what's going on. And the role that y'all have is very, very important in that regard. My name is Jackie Vargas, and I manage the Building Coordinator Program. We are videotaping for the first time. It's a pilot we're doing. We want to be able to have the information because we feel like it is valuable information. We will have it embedded in our website. And certainly it would be helpful if someone can't attend the meeting, but I don't want that to be in place of the meeting. But we have presenters sometimes who use minimal slides, no slides, and even when we have a lot of information on slides, the information they share verbally is always very valuable and very helpful, and we want to be able to have that so that those of you, when you do attend, you can always go back and listen to the information. UHIT is doing the videotaping, and they're actually going to edit it so that the slides are part of the presentation. And so that's going to be helpful, I think, too. But we have a great group of presenters this morning. On your tables, you have several handouts. Emergency Management, Ginger Walker actually pulled together some information that they produce that will help with just helping you prepare for any kind of storm emergency, both personally in your home and then in your facility. So they also have a lot of other services that they provide, and they're going to be presenting some of those services, I think, at our next building coordinator meeting. So it's things that aren't just related to storms, although that's what we primarily have, but so that you can help your building be prepared for any kind of emergency event. I want to also tell you that there's a map, there's a pamphlet map, and we have some presenters who are going to be talking this morning about that, but we went on and passed out that, so you have it, and of course you have the agenda. There's also some little cards that have, we've used them in the past, we've updated a little bit. They're cards that you can use when you talk with people in your buildings. On one side of the card, it has the 4 ways you can submit a work request when you have problems in your building. And then on the back, it's a place for you to put your name and your contact information. If any of these handouts, if there's not enough, we do have some on some of the other tables, and you're more than welcome to contact me, and I can help get you additional ones. The nice thing about the little cards is we made them so that they would fit in the ID badge holder that the university provides. I don't know if everybody has the badge holder, but it was designed to be something that would fit in here so that you could carry them if you wanted to. I know that, are we going to continue the badge holder, or are they going to the non-badge holder badges? Non-badge. So they'll be great for a while, but they'll fit in your pocket. They'll fit in your wallet, but we just wanted to make them so that as you gave them to people, they could hold on to them and they could have them kind of ready. And of course, building coordinators aren't intended to, report every light bulb that's out, but in your role as the person that building users would escalate things to, escalate building problems to, we want to make sure that your information is out there. We are continuing the meet and greets. Our last one was at MD Anderson, and so I would love if any building wants to have a meet and greet. It's something that we do. It helps your building occupants meet you and just kind of help answer questions, because usually there's quite a few individuals from FPC and facilities services. Before we get started, I also wanted to introduce to you, I have a new staff member, and then you probably have seen emails from Yvonne Hernandez. She's one of our students, and she's sitting over there. And then Karen Hernandez, and they do happen to have the last name because they are sisters, which was great. They're both communication students here at U of H. And so they bring a great diversity of communication skills. They've been great to work with. And then we have Jennifer Ray. She's my brand new communications coordinator. She just is bringing all kinds of great skills with her. And I've already got her busy on a lot of things. So you'll probably see things from her as well. So without further ado, I think let's go ahead and get started since we had a bit of a late start. So we're going to start out with, and I apologize, I don't know if I'm using this mic, so it may be going up and down. We're going to have a facilities update from our two interim executive directors, Georgianne Smith and Carlos Villarreal.
And no, he's not going to hold my hand. Okay. We have been interim directors, executive directors since April 1st. Yeah. So we're trying to make a significant difference. I hope that most of you have seen some changes. I've been very happy with the response that we've gotten from several of y'all. The first change that has happened in just the last few weeks revolves around the lock shop. For years, the lock shop and access control and key control were all part of the same group. And Phil, is this going in and out? Fine. Okay. They're all part of the same group, and as we move more towards access control, there really needs to be a separation. And so what we have done is Richard Day will continue to be over the lock shop and all the access control activities. He's reporting up to Roger Warner. Roger is over there. And then key control now will report to Con Hodges. And I think most of you know Con. Where did she go? She was here. And Penny Brungart, who most of you know, she will be helping set this up. What the changes in key control have to do with Famous feeding real time to HRMS, so that when we do termination checklists, you'll have the list of keys that the employee is supposed to turn in. I was in a meeting yesterday, and some of the changes that they are making that we've asked for, because currently what happens is when you first initiate your termination checklist, it will have a list of keys, and it's not updating as they come and turn in the keys. So they're going to have that real time. Also, very quickly, all of the college administrators and the building coordinators will be able to access through self-service a list of any employee's keys. It's not going to be set up in PASS so that an individual can go and see their list of keys. not right now. They're waiting till 9.2, the HRMS upgrade that's scheduled February, March. They're hoping to add that to pass at that time. Also, Key Control now is open 7 to 7, Monday through Friday. During peak times, during the beginning of semesters, we may change those hours or add a Saturday. But for security reasons and ease and being able to actually maintain the keys, we're going to keep the 7 to 7, and they'll be right there where it is right now, up in the front of the call center. The next change has been a tremendous change. We have taken zone maintenance and broken it apart. 4 or 5 years ago, the general maintenance and custodial services consolidated into one large group of zone maintenance under the centralization model. And while there were several things that were very good that came from that, there were several failures. One of the failures was that we now had supervisors that had come up through the ranks as from the custodial side. So yes, they had the credentials to be a supervisor, they were good at what they were doing, but they only had a background in custodial services. But they were now supervising plumbers, general maintenance people, painting, whatever. And so they didn't have a frame of reference as to be able to manage those people well. So what we have done is we have gone through and split custodial services and general maintenance. Craig Whitfield, who is over the South Zone, is now over all general maintenance activities for the whole campus. Right now, he is finalizing a new org chart within his group of supervisors so that each supervisor and their crews will be assigned to a certain set of buildings. So you'll get some, they'll start gaining institutional knowledge on that set of buildings. So when that technician comes in, they have experience in your building. They know where to go, they know what to do. Same thing with custodial services. For the custodial services campus-wide, for the in-house custodial services, we've promoted Liliana Simmons. Here's Liliana. Most of you know her. She's been here several years. And so she is working with the custodians and reorganizing some of the crews, and she's got her work cut out for her. Ray Mosley, who has been over the North Zone, is now, and he was also over contracted custodial services. He is now responsible for all of the inspection team and still the contracted custodial services. The reason we've gone to contracted custodial services in several areas is because we really have a shortage of manpower. We cannot adequately recruit and retain employees in those positions, so that has to be outsourced. And so several years ago, the plan was made as new E&G buildings come online, they are outsourced, and all of student affairs outsourced. So the big change has been the growth in the inspection team. Just as of this week, we are now going to be inspecting all of the kitchen facilities, both the retail facilities and the Aramark facilities. We're inspecting all of the athletic facilities that are maintained by Aramark. So it's just not the facilities that we're inspecting that are contracted under, that we are the contract administrator for. So we're acting as a third party in some of these instances to provide oversight for these other contract administrators. Do you have any questions about those things? Okay. Next. Okay. There's several things that we're trying to focus on. I went through a SWOT analysis with the senior managers for facilities, looking at our strengths and our weaknesses and our threats. And a lot of what we found was our largest weakness happened to be in our communication skills. And many times, our poor communication skills were actually causing service failures. Where we fail to communicate, we end up having problems with actually getting the job done. I know that you've received notifications through Famous that your work order has been completed, and you know for sure nobody's been there. Nothing's been done. There's nothing that says on that work order what's going on, when what happened is that the work order was assigned to HVAC. HVAC sent somebody out there. It's not HVAC. It should be electrical. So what they do is they build a child work order for the electric shop, but they complete the HVAC without any communication. They don't put closing comments. They don't put any notes into the task, so that you don't know why it was closed. You just see it's completed, so you think that facilities has finished. Also, there have been problems where we have someone come out and put a Band-Aid on a problem because they don't have the parts. They had to go order the parts. And so what happens is that communication is not written in the work order. And yes, Carl, some people do it every time, but it's not everybody. It's not consistent across all the crews. I'm getting this look from Carl. Then what happens is that 2 weeks later, the parts come in, they go out and fix it. And so then from a VP, I get a call, and they said, it took you 3 weeks to fix a light. Well, yeah, but, we were actually, from what they were seeing, we hadn't even gone out there for 3 weeks and addressed the problem. So some of these failures are our fault. And so we are really working with the crews to make sure the technician is getting the information to the supervisor. Either the supervisor is putting the information in, or else it's going to our admin team and they're putting the information in. What?
Staying with that, we did do a temporary fix. We let the customer know. We got the part, we put it in, so we did fix it. We just didn't share with everybody.
Yeah. So, the next thing we have is, okay, oh, I don't want to blow it out. Okay, so, the work order follow-up. Right now, when you have a completed work order, you get the notification, the email to fill out the survey. If you don't fill out the survey online, very shortly you will be starting to get phone calls. And so what I have devised a procedure that actually fulfills two purposes. I have employees that are on workers' comp that I have to find light duty for them. And so instead of them sitting with nothing to do, we have found things for them to do. But it also fulfills the purpose of the feedback for the work orders. So Con has worked on a program within Famous so that there is a program that we can go in and pull up the crew, or just pull up all the work orders that were finished yesterday or finished last week that we didn't get a survey on. It's kind of like a telemarketing screen, so it gives them the script of what they're supposed to read. It automatically fills in the requester's name, what was done on the work order. They say, was it completed to your satisfaction? You say yes, and you say, thank you, have a nice day, and that's it. If you say no, they'll ask you, do you want a supervisor to call you? And if you say no, then if you make a comment, she'll write in the comment. If you say, yes, you want a supervisor, then what happens is they'll click one of the little cues and they'll hit submit, and then it actually goes into a supervisor's queue. So then the supervisor has this list of requesters that they need to call about specific work orders to follow up on. And then those queues will be monitored by their directors to make sure that all of those things are being taken care of. What we have, the other big push beside communications is accountability. And where we have found problems in requesting, pushing, nudging, asking, demanding our employees to be accountable for their work, we found that because our job descriptions are so outdated, that is very difficult for us to enforce those things. So what we are looking at, especially in the technical areas, updating all of the job descriptions to reflect current technology, especially in HVAC. Technology has changed so much in 10 years. The job descriptions we have just are not adequate for the work that we're actually doing. So we'll be looking at those. And then once we get those finalized, what we will be doing is the supervisors will be assessing every technician and setting up a training plan for those employees so that everyone understands the current technology. Everyone within those crews can go out and fix any piece of equipment on the campus. We're always going to have, a handful of people that are specialized for some type of valve or something, or for the labs. But one, we're not going to have single points of failure. And two, we're not going to accept mediocre work. I think that probably these four things will probably make the biggest impact that you will see. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Gentlemen, over there have a question.
One of our previous meetings, they asked about the rate of return for the work requests or the surveys. And so I tried to be diligent and go in there and do it. When we get the closeout ticket, because when it asks, this job has been closed, and it just says like work order 33254, has been closed by the HVAC team, can you fill out this survey? And it throws you to Survey Monkey. I know the Survey Monkey can't be automatically populated, but then I have to go in there and say, it was this type, it was HVAC. But when I get that closeout notification, can I get the body of the work order? Because I can easily have 5 HVAC tickets open at one time.
We're already ahead of you.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Then I have to go research what that ticket was to actually answer it correctly.
Right. Con is working on building that survey into self-service.
Okay.
So it will automatically populate all of that, and so you just need to put your comments.
Great, okay.
I have 2 projects ahead of that one, but it's there, and we just hired another application developer today. So those things we're really working on. If you have any other suggestions, please get a hold of me or Con. It's, coming from being a college administrator, I have my list of things that I want to see. And so a lot of self-service, Mark's laughing, a lot of self-service reports have been built around what we as college and division administrators want to look at. And so I think it's helped the building coordinators too. But certainly, if there's something you need to see or something you need sorted differently, or if something you're looking for is just not there, please contact us. Yes?
I just have something positive that I wanted to say. Some of the departments that I have experienced great customer service and feedback from would be the lock shop, the electrical shop, Nick, and
Two what?
Favorites.
Great.
Well, I got two, you got four.
Cheryl will do anything you want. Maybe. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgianne and Carlos. That was great. Next, we're going to go to Dawn Dartez. She is our University Space Manager, and she has some really interesting information about the Coordinating Board audit.
You ruined my fun surprise. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dawn Dartez with the Office of Facilities Information. And I came here last meeting to discuss with you all this is odd, with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board audit that had occurred last month. And I'm here to celebrate and share some good news with you. Here's my surprise. We passed the audit. Yay! So this is a great thing for the university. They audit us on a 4 to 5 year cycle, and we passed this cycle, so which means we won't be audited again till another 4 or 5 years, which is wonderful. They are going to visit some of our component campuses soon. There's the downtown location in November 2016, and then UH Clear Lake for March to May 2017, and then the UH Victoria campus in March to May 2018. UH Sugar Land and UH Cinco Ranch is considered part of our main campus, so currently their audit is also completed and passed along with the main campus. To share some results from our audit, basically out of 8 factors that they score us on, we received 5 out of 5 out of 6 of those, which is really great. The only ones that had small margins of error was the first one there. We got a 4 out of 5, which is the signage that's present in front of each room. We had one small room far away off in the middle of nowhere where it was missing its room signage. So luckily that didn't really affect much. It was 1 out of 35 rooms that were reviewed. And then the very last one, number 8, is the seating capacities in our classrooms and our class labs. Out of our 35 rooms, 2 of the rooms were significantly off on its capacities. So we have to keep track of how many students and capacities are allowed in our classroom labs and our class labs, in our classrooms. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, to me, standing here, it sounds very strange. Sounds like it's going in and out. So we went ahead of time to these rooms and these classrooms, and we counted physically how many seats were present. And then 2-3 weeks later, when the state auditors came, surprise, someone had gone in there and removed some chairs out of one room to another and switched them around. And these were in rooms that have movable seats. They're not the fixed seating. So we came in, and they're pretty lenient. They gave us, either a 5-seat or a 10% margin of error, and it was that far off. I mean, someone took 10 or 20 seats and picked them up and moved them to another room. So, just a lesson learned there. Well, maybe next time I have to post some signs saying, please don't remove the seats from this room. Everything else, though, we did really well on. Space use codes, functional codes, the square footage of all the rooms, and that breaks it out into the E and G, and all of that was calculated correctly and accurately, and it's because of all of you that have helped with that. I know many of you sent me emails updating me on the space and on signage, and it was so helpful, and we really, really do appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for me regarding the results? Yes.
I think number 8 might have been our fault.
Oh, well, finally have someone to blame.
No, what we're doing, we're picking up batches of chairs, 25. We bring them in, sand them, refinish them, take them back.
Oh, that would have been good to know.
It is?
Oh, it's okay. Luckily, we still passed. 3 out of 5 is still passing, barely, but we passed it. So, in the future, we'll just be a little more cautious of that. Anyone else? No? All right, well, wonderful, thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
The space survey.
Sure.
I know you've been involved in where we have a room that actually is used by two different divisions, and they both need to be able to issue keys to that room. How are we supposed to handle that?
I am working with Con on trying to find a solution to that. That's not something that is done in the system space-wise. If a room belongs to a department or whatever department's occupying that space, that's what we code it to and that's what we report to the state. So if they do come and audit that room, they say, oh yes, engineering is in this room. Whether that room actually belongs to biology, there's no way for us to split up the room proration like that. I was hoping there was a way in the system where you could say, engineering would approve this, but in case someone in biology needs to approve it, they could be like a backup option for them to be able to approve things. I don't know how that's going to work out in the system. I haven't met with Con about it, but that's kind of what I was hoping would happen.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dawn. That was really helpful, and I was so happy that you got to share the good news that we'd passed and done so well. So kudos to everybody in this room and all the building coordinators and Dawn's team. Next, we're going to have several some presentations about the substation, and then we have an upcoming winter break outage, and then an August 1st and 2nd outage, which you should have received a fairly detailed and specific outage notification. You will be getting some reminders, so please forgive me, don't hate me, but we just want to make sure that everybody gets it, sees it, remembers it, and if there's any questions, the gentlemen who are going to come talk this morning will give you some idea of all of the information, and then also you'll know that they're ones that you can contact if you have any questions. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we're going to start with the Cougar Substation update. Dean Ruck, who is one of our senior construction project managers, is going to come talk to us about that. Sorry. There you go.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I want to give you a little briefing on the Cougar Substation Expansion Project. This is going to be a great project for the university infrastructure. If you're not aware, the Cougar Substation is the main electrical hub for the university. It serves the majority of campus and is located over at the ERP. And so the substation provides reliable, redundant electrical service to most of the buildings on campus. There are some problems, however. It's been at capacity for some time now. Newer buildings that we're bringing online have had to go to CenterPoint Energy directly from service at the street. And that power has typically not been as reliable as the university service. We are also, so that the substation is maxed out on capacity. So this expansion project is going to provide additional capacity across campus. Some of those buildings, such as Cougar Village 2, Health and Biomed, the stadium, those newer buildings have been brought online with CenterPoint Energy. So we're hoping to alleviate both of some of that, just take some of those services off of CenterPoint and put it onto the U of H service, and also to have capacity in the future to add new buildings. A big part of this, too, is the ERP campus. That entire campus is on residential service with overhead lines. And this is a very unreliable service out there. They have a lot of problems with unplanned outages. So part of this project is to eliminate all of the overhead electrical lines serving ERP from the residential neighborhood and put it on the U of H substation service. So we will be increasing the capacity. We're adding a transformer out at the substation. And then we will be putting in duct bank, underground duct bank throughout the ERP campus, and then actually routing all the way over to main campus from the ERP substation. We'll have 2 new feeders coming off of that substation expansion, so we're gaining that capacity. We'll be able to pick up Health and Biomed, Cougar Village 2. We'll be able to alleviate some of the existing service lines that are coming from the central plant to alleviate and increase capacity at central plant by picking up those services. See here the feeders 1 and 2, 5 and 7, 11 and 12. Those are all coming from central plant now. With this project, we'll be able to pick those up on the new transformer at the substation expansion. That'll alleviate some of the load at central plant and be able to use that elsewhere on campus. As I mentioned, the ERP service is really quite unreliable, so that's all overhead power lines. Get a lot of interference from critters and weather and just the lack of reliability from CenterPoint. So all of that service will now be underground. It'll be redundant with a second feeder to each building. So that will essentially eliminate sort of their unplanned outages. And then we'll mention the redundancy with the second line going to each building. Just as a context point, this is a planned view of the project. See the blue square showing the Cougar substation and the red line representing all the underground duct bank that we'll be installing in this process. Reaching out to each existing service point at ERP. If you can see the red squares along that line at ERP, we have to go under the railroad tracks, under Spur 5, reach our corner of property out at the backside of the Rec Wellness field, wrap around that field, and we will go into what is a central plant at the Health and Biomed. And from there, we will branch out to campus, tap into the tunnel system at Moody Towers, which along that way we will pick up those lines that are serving the main corridor of campus to alleviate some of the load at central plant. So here's the general broad schedule. We're in design now. Shaw Smith and Associates is our design consultant. They're roughly halfway through design. We will complete that end of August, early September, get it out on the street for contractor bidding. We would hope to have a contractor on board by the end of the year and break ground on the project at the first of the year. And it is a long project. There's a lot of underground work. There's going to be a lot of unknowns. We'll be touching this project in various locations as we go. And so it's projected to be completed in October of 2017. Hopefully you won't see a lot of impact. Hopefully we don't have too many hidden bones or critters that get in our way, but it is a complicated project getting through various easements, property owners, permissions from TxDOT, the railroad, CenterPoint, Harris County Flood District. All of those people are going to be part of it. You will see when we get into construction, and again, it won't start until January of next year. We'll be cutting into the ground for duct bank, so we're going to be closing sidewalks, occasional roadways, as we need to get across Calhoun at some point, going under Spur 5. So we will get notices out for all of those outages as they come up. The primary focus is going to be at ERP and the southeast corner of campus. There should be pretty minor outages as we go through this, but at some point we have to bring that new service online, and there's going to be some interruptions. We will obviously plan that for best possible times and minimize that as much as we can. I think that's it. Is there any questions? Must be some, yes.
Out of curiosity, is this expansion also taking into account future buildings on campus?
It is. It is. Some of the background on the substation, it was built by HL&P years ago, and it was supposed to provide service to the campus forever. Forever didn't last that long. We maxed that out pretty quickly. What we're doing now is, not to get too in the weeds and technical, but we have 33 kVA transformers. What we're doing is adding a 42 kVA transformer. At some point, those existing transformers are going to need to be upgraded. They have maybe another 10, 15 years life on them. At that point, the sizes of those transformers can be upgraded that will provide future capacity. So we are providing additional capacity now. There are limitations. We are taking into account what the development that might be out at ERP. And what we know is on the slate for main campus. But in 10 years or so, when those existing transformers need to be replaced, we'll be able to bump up capacity again at that time. At some point, there may be need for a different substation on the other side of campus. Anybody else? No questions. Carl, you want to add anything?
Wait to get started.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Dean. I found that very interesting because I've heard about the substation, and now I have a better, I think I have a better understanding of how it impacts us. Next up is Mike Wheeler. He's going to be talking to us about the summer outage, the August 1st and August 2nd, and potentially August 8th and August 9th. So Mike, you want to come up and share that with us?
Thank you, Jackie. Good morning. I see what you mean with the sound. As you're aware, we've put out a notice for the August 1st and 2nd summer outage for feeder 1 and 2, or subfeeder 1. It is de-energized, and we've, oh, that's the wrong one. Right, okay. So it's scheduled for August 1st and 2nd. And the outage is to investigate, troubleshoot, test and repair the cause of repeated failures. We brought this to you guys the last building coordinator meeting, and we've since put an outage out on campus. This is just a reminder that that is still coming, and you will get another outage in a couple of weeks, two weeks out, and we're looking for any feedback. So far, we've gotten 1 or 2 buildings that had some concern, and we will be addressing those. I got an email this morning from a gentleman who's in the building, and if you want to meet with Carl and I afterwards, we'll try to address it. If not, I'll get back with you and answer your question. During the outage, the buildings will be on generator power only for emergency generator. In the past couple of weeks, we've done some investigation. We've identified a bad splice in one of the manholes, so that is going to be the focus of our repairs when we start, to make sure that we can get that repair done and then start doing some other investigation. Then additional building preventive maintenance will be done during the outage so that we don't have to impact you another time to do the preventive maintenance that we need on the buildings. Once the cause is determined, then we'll have a plan of action, and if need be, we'll look at the weekend of the 8th and 9th to do the repairs, or we'll use that as a backup weekend in case The 1st and 2nd is rained out, and we can't do the work on that weekend, and then we'll move into the 8th and the 9th. And this is the map showing the buildings and the route of the cable that we'll be investigating, and the list of the buildings. And I believe we met with all the building coordinators for all these buildings in the past. I'm not seeing anybody shaking their head no, so that's good. And that's about it for the summer outage. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to make a reference to the
Oh.
documents we shared there, especially on the map, the highlighted map there. That's Cougar Village too, that's highlighted, that building is not being impacted.
That was my thought.
So this was more
Yeah,
of
right
a
here.
reference on how the feeder is routed through campus and somewhat which buildings are being affected. But Cougar Village too is on a center point service, so it won't have any impact on this outage. And the other thing that you don't see on the map is across the street, across Wheeler Street, Cameron.
Right here.
Cameron is listed on the building impact schedule, it's not shown on this highlighted map for anybody who's trying to reference that to their people in their buildings using this map. Cameron is impacted, but it's just not shown.
That was my fault again. Anything else?
That list's not gonna change.
I'm sorry?
You're not gonna throw our building in there.
No, sir. We can if you want to.
Please.
Any questions? Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And one thing I wanted to mention, as building coordinators, we send the outage notifications to a building coordinator listserv. And so you get every outage notifications that's done. And the reason we do that is, one, it's easiest to send it to the listserv. But in addition, there's a lot of buildings that have multiple departments, and we've learned over time that it's just better to let you be the sort of the editor. So if it's a building that you have no occupants or users in, then you don't need to worry about, opening the outage. But because we don't know who always is in those buildings, I want to make sure that everybody is aware. And as Mike said, we'll be sending out a reminder, maybe a couple more reminders about the August 1st and 2nd. So it's really just an effort to make sure that it stays in the forefront of everybody's mind and that everybody's aware that it's coming. So now we're going to conclude the electrical update with Shannon Jones, correct? Because Ken Oliver is, because I don't see Ken, so.
Yes, unfortunately.
He's sick. So Shannon Jones is going to step in for Ken Oliver, and Shannon is one of our principal construction project managers with non-capital, so.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, unfortunately, Ken called in sick this morning, which I guess it could be a good thing or a bad thing for you guys. But what I did do for you, he had 34 slides. I condensed it down to one slide. So that could be a good thing. As most of you already know, I went over about 30 minutes of this last, I guess it was last quarter, it was last month. But the only major change that I want to cover this morning is the actual schedule for the outage. And I can already see that Ken did not update this slide, which is wrong, and I know Carl's going to tell me it's wrong. But the actual sequence of events that we're going to do, the dates will remain the same, which is December 26th through the December 30th, except the order of the feeders is going to be reversed. I think now we're going with 3, 1, 2. Is that right, Carl? Yeah. So it's going to be feeder 1 on 26th of December. We reduced that down. It's only going to be for 1 day. And then on the 27th, it's going to be feeder number 1. And then on the 28th, it's going to be feeder number 3, and we'll have those other dates in case we have to go back and do some other repairs. The key to it is that on the morning of each morning at 5:30 in the morning, there's going to be a series of blips that will take place on a series of buildings, which will be later defined as Carl and I work that out. We'll be having sequence schedules with each college to make sure that we give you the list of buildings that we're going to use during that time frame so that everybody knows exactly what we're doing. When those blips occur at 5:30 in the morning, it will be out for an hour, and then the regular power will come back on. For the duration of that day, we'll do our repairs, and at the end of the day, we'll revert that power back to your building, and it goes on at the building, business as usual. The following morning, there'll be another series of buildings that will be affected. Again, that list is to follow, with a series of blips at 5:30 in the morning. We'll do our repairs for the duration of the day, or you'll be on regular power. At the end of the day, there'll be another series of blips at the conclusion of that day, and that cycle repeats itself for those 3 days. The critical nodes for those buildings, when you have those blips, number one is the elevators will be shut down. The HVAC systems won't run during that time period. And the big deal for most of our research friends who are in here is really to look at your projects, and we'll make sure that the building is brought back up to capacity after that 5:30, the blips that morning. The other things, other than that, really, that's the only change that we have that was not put out, that I did not put out last quarter. So at this point, don't want to belabor it, don't want to go into the 30-minute spiel. Does anybody have any questions on exactly how it's going to take place during winter break? Again, in September, starting in September, same as we did last year, we're going to have a sequence of meetings with all of the colleges. Primarily, we're going to look at the research schools to make sure that all the projects are taken care of. But we'll sit down with each college as each building that will be affected by on which day. So other than that, that's really all the information that we have. Any questions? Thanks.
Thank you, Shannon. Okay, now Jean LaMontagne is going to come talk to us give us some updates on the CIP and the FCA. You've all heard of these, but she's going to give us some fresh information. Thanks.
I really appreciated Shannon's short presentation because I have 40 or 50 slides myself. I hope that's okay with everybody.
Feel free to use all mine.
All right, thank you. Okay, actually, I'm going to go through the first 3 slides real quickly. Just to remember this process. This is a process where we gather a lot of user needs. These are things on the left. We gather needs from our shareholders in campus. We do, in the case of things we've done before, we try and identify lessons learned in our post-occupancy evaluations. We vet them all against the academic plan. We try and figure out whether we have enough money to pay for them, and then we create a capital improvement plan. For those things that are not new buildings, which are basically addressed on the right, the new construction is always fairly large, anything over $4 million, up to $100 million. But we have plenty of significant capital improvement projects. We have a lot of roofs to reconsider, re-roof. We have a lot of air conditioning systems to overhaul. We have a bunch of buildings that need to be sprinklered. And those are the specific projects to which the Impact Committee and the Capital Improvement Planning team is directed. So how we went about this is we took a look in 2011 at how all the buildings were faring, not so well as it happened. The 5-year outlook, which is where we are now in 2015, showed that the preponderance of our deficiencies were in mechanical. The top ones are as they are in the construction of any new building, MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. We had a number of modernization issues, which include ADA issues. So here was the snapshot of where we were. And then we looked where we were spending it. And we have been spending a lot of money on fire and life safety. We had a backlog of all of those projects. We worked from the fire marshal's list on addressing those. And the rest of those projects were kind of addressed in a first come, first serve fashion. Trying to think of a way in which we could avoid the first come, first serve, which is kind of like the squeaky wheel with the best keyboard entry skills. We thought we might try and bring an allowance cost model to reflect more closely the proportional weight of each deficiency within the construction system. So these are not the actual numbers, but we will be taking some baseline budget to the Impact Committee probably no later than mid-July to talk about where they see these issues being. We know that we need 15 to 30% to address HVAC. We know that we're going to need significantly more than the typical 7 or 8% for fire and life safety. We'll see what they come up with. There will continue to be set-asides, as you'll see on the next slide. When the group that put together the 2015 fiscal year impact capital improvement project list, they were diligent about keeping an emergency fund allowance and contingency funds allowance. All projects, or many projects, tend to run over. We had a prime example of that in Cullen Fountain. Cullen Fountain, which we hoped would only be a $700,000, $800,000 project, is looking at much closer to $1.5 million and $2 million. It's an iconic piece of campus fabric, and we'll have to retain that, I think, is where the impact committee will go. But there is a vote on that. We'll see how that works. You can see from all of the projects that were identified for fiscal year 15 that we couldn't afford most of them, or some of the significant ones, and they've had to roll forward. So all of us in the capital planning impact group we're getting really worried because Dean's project looked like it was going to sweep the entire budget, and a very important project. And so we didn't talk to Dean for about 6 weeks, I think, while we were pondering this. But we had wonderful news that the HEAF funds were made available for, separate HEAF funds were made available for Cougar Substation, and we're back to planning again. So all of you who would like to be squeaky wheels, improve your texting skills, get those work orders in, or talk to your building coordinators and project managers about things that we know are wrong with the building. We are going to try and address, this will allow us not to be so responsive to first come, first serve. And if we have a set aside of a few $1 million for HVAC or for building envelope or something else, we will have the experts that we have in our facilities group help prioritize those projects so that they can be presented to a committee and have a fair determination made. Okay, so the University of Houston has a wonderful marketing scheme called Welcome to the Powerhouse. For some reason, donors are not into sexy things like substations and plumbing infrastructure, which I think is a real shame. I'd really like to see a Welcome to the Powerhouse donor campaign to try and raise some money for our infrastructure. These 15 kV transfer switches, we're proposing these as a phase 1 of 2 to replace them all. In order, once again, to try and not sweep the entire budget, every way that we can phase important projects so that they are achievable while allowing other important repair work to take place will be favorably considered. Although planning is not properly paid for within the venue of the CRDM, because we mostly address repairs that have gone on a long time and basic renewal of properties, where we don't have the money, we are at least going to try and scope and develop designs for each of these important projects. So we're going to have a huge amount of fire life safety scoping, some interior refurbishment relating to migration once we start moving some of the science spaces to the MRAB buildings and HBS2. We're going to address finally bringing McGregor property up to some basic state of development so we can plan future uses for that. And let's see if there's anything else on here. Get a few critical roofs replaced, I think, at the same time. All right, that's it. Anybody got any questions? Yes, ma'am.
What is the impact committee?
The impact committee is the maintenance project evaluation committee. All right, I always want to say minor projects, so it's usually M, means minor management. The CRDM is an industry term, capital renewal deferred maintenance. What I think they were trying to do with the establishment of the impact committee was share ownership of the decision-making process of how projects are decided. Sometimes to an outsider it can look like there's too much political influence on how decisions are made. I think there's been an enormous effort to try and tie these things to weighted criteria so that we know based on the building condition, we know based on the importance of the academic program, whether there are accreditation needs, whether there are life safety needs, what projects need to go in what order. So the impact committee, there's a small committee that deals with things under $50,000, and usually if there's money available, there's no problem dealing with those. For the larger issues, we have campus representation on the committee to try and make sure that campus-wide needs are understood and considered in that. So that group meets about every 2 months or more often as needed. Danny, do you have a question too? Nope. Okay, so thought someone did. All right, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean. So it sounds like it's really important, as she said, to put in those work orders. Make sure that your needs in your buildings are communicated, so that we can reach out and help, and that it can get elevated to some of these other processes, because we want to be there to help. Next on the list is, we have a group of individuals, pardon me. The last agenda item is, we're going to have a group come talk to you about the pamphlets that you have on your table there, the campus map. And so we're going to have Jean LaMontagne again, Deborah Davis, Maria Honey, and Robert Berkline. Although I don't see Maria, so, but if y'all would all, pardon me? Maria's out today. So, okay, so if y'all would come up and talk to us about this new exciting way to look at campus. I think it's amazing.
I thought I was support on this, and as far as I'm concerned, I am support on this, but I will introduce this slide. Some of you have probably already seen the bands of this kind of turquoisey green around the Arts District. Perhaps you passed it on your way here. And as an effort toward greater campus intelligibility, as an effort toward more community building between the various groups, our professional groups, our core academic groups, our housing groups, this sort of thing, Design Lab has divided the campus into a number of different campus districts, which relates both to wayfinding, but also to addressing. I know these folks are going to talk a lot more about addressing, but I would like to say that in general, when we tried to put the addresses together, we did try and group things by district with a similar street address where possible. So in general, arts buildings are off Elgin. In general, science buildings are off Cullen. In general, biomedical science buildings are off Calhoun. So there's a little bit of logical intelligibility about how these addresses play out. So you will see some of these, as the next 3 or 4 years go, district by district, new signage going in.
Thank you.
Okay, as Jean mentioned, in conjunction with the campus wayfinding project, it initiated a review of our existing campus addressing. And so as a result of that, we created an addressing grid for all of our campus buildings, and it's going to provide a locatable address for all of us. The reasons for making this change is and 3 important reasons, is to improve general public safety response to the campus, requirements for the 911 enhancing database services, and ability to use maps and navigation and GPS systems for us. But particularly making sure that the fire and alarms can find you when you have to call, if you have to call 911 from your office. At Postal Services, we work with the City of Houston and the United States Post Office, or Postal Services, on assigning our street addresses and the official recognition of our 77204 zip code. With the City of Houston, we work with their zone enforcement office, and they provided the addresses like Jean was talking about in a reasonable grouping, based on the district that your building is located in. Your mail code, or your +4, will remain unchanged as you all know it today, because departments have already been using the 77204 zip code. The biggest change for this is with our housing partners. All of their addresses previously used the 77004 zip code, which made our campus have 2 zip codes, and so that'll just make it more efficient for Postal Services with the campus being under 1 zip code. The United States Postal Services had added all of our departments and our street addresses to a national zip code database, which will assist with your GPS usage. We provided these new addresses to the following units: UHPD, ELS, Facilities and Famous, PeopleSoft, and UIT. And you all know all of these areas have an impact across the entire campus. We are also creating a campus addressing website that'll have more information and a lookup table for your convenience. Once we get that address, the website all created, we will be sending out information to you. A communication plan has been developed for the campus, and we're starting with this meeting. You'll start to see news releases, emails, signage in the TV screens across the campus in the common areas, just to start getting you all informed that this project will launch. Printing services for a limited time is going to offer you a discount on ordering your new stationery. From July 1 to August 31, we'll give you a 15% discount, and you still use your stationery order form that's located already on the Printing and Postal website. The new address is going to launch August 1, 2015, and at this time, you can start using that new address. The booklets that are on your desk, you see this first page where all of the districts are listed and it's color-coded, and that's the order that they proceed in the book, and then you'll see all of your addresses there. We did not include the zip code because it's just the same. Houston, Texas, 77204, and your +4. Now, what you need to do and what you need to have your departments do to prepare for the launch on August 1. Update your address on all your websites, all your marketing collateral and forms, on your email signature. Make sure you order your new stationery. And the most important thing is going to be to communicate to your team members, your faculty, your your building occupants, any of your campus vending partners. They need to know that this change is coming. So to communicate that out is going to be very important. And also, you need to work with your business person to make sure that you are updated in PASS. And Robert is going to talk to you about the importance of that, of making sure that your address is correct in PASS so that you are locatable on our campus. Yeah.
Now, of course, they sent the best stuff for last because I am actually going to do a live demo. So I'm going to go ahead and exit the slideshow. So I actually noticed that a lot of you guys, when you looked at the map, didn't even realize the first page actually opens up and there's a full campus view. But this is how it's going to fit into the new online campus map. We're also color coding all the districts on the online campus map. Those buildings, you can look up their official addresses. This is not going live until August 1st per Printing Postal, but we are getting this stuff ready to go. You can look up your address once this goes live by clicking on the building. It corresponds to the district and the official address that Printing and Postal has on. You can see in the blue bar up there. Other than that, the map's not changing right now. We just have added the building colors and the district colors to coordinate all of this effort. I'll go ahead and click on another one for another example so you can see it. We are trying to find out what online sources we have to get updated as well to make sure that GPS addresses and so forth get updated in those devices, especially when you use Google Maps, so you can actually find the building. Because that's always been a problem in a lot of those online maps. I didn't realize I was going to be telling you guys why it was important to keep your building and room number up to date and PASS. But that I am also working with the telecom group to use that information to get our 911 database updated. So when people are moving around, it's really important to be updating that information in PASS. Employees used to have the ability to update that information. They no longer have that ability. So usually one of the business administrators has to update it, but it's important for them to make sure that they update it in PASS so that that information gets back to the telecom team. Does anyone have any questions about the map? Yes, sir.
Is the hotel going to be separate, or is it going to be part of the Conrad Hilton College? Because Hilton University of Houston is an official building within the Hilton corporate world of hotels. And we have issues with customers want to send mail to the hotel and it ends up in their own building. And that's been an ongoing issue for years.
Would you like to answer that? I can't answer that as
I'm not sure I
well.
understand. What do you mean, is it gonna be separate?
Here, Conrad Hilton, College of Hotel and Restaurant Management,
Mhm.
that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the college. Where's the hotel? The hotel is an official building, where we have guests staying and they will be expecting mail. But are totally unrelated to the university.
Yeah, because it's like, it's one building.
Okay.
Yeah, part of that is they share the same building number right now.
Right, so,
Yeah.
so, thank you so much for bringing that up. We have other instances on campus where we caught that ahead of time, but it's not too late to do that. There are addresses that are there for postal delivery, and there are addresses that may be there for emergency access recognition. We can absolutely create additional addresses as needed. We would simply work with the City of Houston to add those to the map. It may not appear in the printed guidelines immediately, but it will absolutely be there. And you can always work with the Postal Services if there's still difficulty sorting the mail correctly when you get there. So if you have issues like that, you might want to start with Sally Rowland, or you can certainly contact me as well.
Yes, Matt.
So those of us that have been working on an old address, this is going to be the address printed here is the one that we're going to go with.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That's the one that has been approved by the City of Houston.
Okay, and that's August 1st. Thank you.
Yes.
I do want to say one other thing, is we've had a couple of requests for maps that still have the building numbers on them, and I think, Robert, we're still going to have the building number available when this goes live, is that correct?
There's going to be absolutely no change in building number and the abbreviated name. They remain the same. This is just an additional number on top of the already two we're already using.
Okay, so if you do have any reason to need an older map with the building numbers on it, the FBC website has a map section. You can pull that up.
I had a question over here.
I'm sorry if I missed this, let's stop for just a second. So if we have 20 vendors who we deal with who make deliveries here via FedEx, UPS, et cetera, do we need to notify them of this directly, or will it be a rollover? Hey, I know where Tim Rosas is, he's always been in the same room, same building for 10 years. Or do we need to tell them, well, no, now we're 35, 36 Cullen, you know, whatever?
Well, we're starting to work with UPS and the various couriers that deliver to the campus. So we're hoping to work that through our area because we are still a central delivery point for the campus. So we have some meetings scheduled with those folks, which is why we're saying August 1 is the real launch day, because that still gives us time to start fitting all the pieces together. You had another question, Matt?
Yeah, if I want to change my, I don't want to be UC anymore, hypothetically speaking, who do I talk to about changing the abbreviation?
So you want to change the abbreviation?
Yeah, the building, yeah, I think that's gonna be Dawn, yeah, I think that's gonna be, and we've talked about that in our meetings that we had, so I think there's some other buildings where your name has changed, but your alpha abbreviation has not. So again, those are all those pieces that we're trying to pull together. Yes, ma'am.
Is the main address for the university still 4800 Calhoun?
We are trying to grandfather that out because that's not a real address. And so we're working with our central marketing department on what address we can use as a central address. From the other websites that I visited with other universities, some of them do not even have one single address. They have a link that lets you get to other important areas of the campus that an individual may be looking for. So we're working with central marketing now and getting a decision on that.
Love the idea, love what's going on. Thank you very much for offering a 50% discount for printing and postal.
You're welcome.
There's no way in the world I have that kind of money right now to change everybody's stationery for the rest of this year by August 1st. And if you're planning on having this implemented by August 1st, which is great, do we go ahead and start doing stationery now with the new address, or what do we do about new hires?
Well, you can start now because you pretty much what your address is in the book is what it is, unless we have a unique situation like the Hilton. And we're going to run the discount through August 31st. And so I'm going to leave it up to your own discretion if you don't want to start making your changes till September 1. But we're going to offer the discount for the 2 months, so,
Again, I do not have those funding.
okay. I mean, I don't, what can I,
Well, I'm just saying, it kind of came out of nowhere here with a month and a half to go before it kicks in. I have no problem with this, this is great.
mhm.
But all of a sudden, you got a month and a half, end of the year, am I right? How are we gonna cover these costs? It's not gonna happen. I don't have those kind of funding loops around right now to be able to cover all the itinerary and all of the stationery for all my employees to be changed over to the address time. We can certainly do the newer employees with new addresses.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of online information that you can certainly point your constituents to if you are perhaps requesting that we extend the discount to maybe September 30th to help you. Those things are going to have to be determined internally to your departments.
Are the deans aware of this?
As far as I know, they are via the wayfinding committee that they were all privy to when it first started.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Nancy?
In the presentation, you mentioned that the milk code was not changed. So starting off, like after August the 1st, because we've been using, for example, our room office number, for example, 226 calling, and then using Texas 77204, and then the milk code for all knowing, and so that was not gonna.
You'll start using the new building address for E-Cullen instead of the 226 E-Cullen. You'll start using whatever that street address is.
So that's when the 260 colon is not gonna be.
It's not a real address. If you were to call 911, they wouldn't know where to come to for 226 E-Cullen. Same. It's the same thing. We're gonna move to street addresses.
Are we needing to include room numbers? I think is where we're headed here. Is, yes, we do know the physical address, but are we gonna need to include room numbers on our, correspondence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, follow-up to that. A lot of offices on campus, yes, while their main central, building is in one location, they have offices and folks and departments at different buildings all over campus. The current standard at printing is that you have to use the physical address of the building that your main you're under, basically, right?
Yes.
So for example, us, just to give you a perspective, we're under the Department of Public Safety. However, we're forced to use 3869 Wheeler, which is the police department, where Malcolm Davis is not housed. He's actually in E-Cullen. Is there some leeway in printing to allow us to actually use our physical address on our business cards and our correspondence, as opposed to making us use an address where they deliver mail at one location and it ends up taking 3 stops before it makes it over to the Center for Public Media?
Well, that's the piece that we're working on with PeopleSoft to make that more flexible because we realize that that's been a problem. And so when printing looks up to confirm an address, they are looking at the enterprise database, which has those discrepancies like you mentioned. So we are trying to work with the PeopleSoft team so they can be more flexible and you can get your mail delivered to where you're located. Now, the other thing that impacts that is the increasing of our mail routes. And so we're having to look at all of that.
Right, so
Yeah.
printing will be a little more lenient, is really where I'm headed here.
We're going to try.
I want printing to allow me to put my actual address on there.
We're going to try.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So who is a contact person if they have other questions? You said that there would be some news releases and, because I'm thinking to try to help the building coordinators get this, since this is kind of being rolled out to them first, how can we help them get the information throughout their buildings? So there will be some news releases or something that they can forward and make sure that people know?
Yeah, we're going to be working with Maria and her team on how we're going to start disseminating that information out to the campus. So it'll be through our regular communication channels.
And if they have questions, they can contact.
Yeah, either me or Sally will be the point of contact.
Can they get any more, like, I know that there was just like 10,000 of these run, are more of these going to be
Well, our focus on these booklets have been for the new incoming students, and so at this time, I don't know if we will be released with a budget to print more to provide them to faculty and staff. So right now, we're just focusing on students. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, did you say that the room numbers you still put on the stationery and in our addresses? For example, I'm with the Center for Students with Disabilities. Do we still put in our address room 100?
Yes, yeah, you would. And when we do the news release, we'll put in samples of what your address should look like. We'll include that in the news release.
And even like the email signature, whatever, if that changes.
Well, so many different ways that people do their email signatures, including their address and not including their address. So I would think that when we give the sample of what your address should be, then you can determine if you want to put all of that in your email signature or not. Because that's very broad, so I don't want to give a sample of what your email signature should look like, because it stretches the gambit from what people include.
The graphic standards for the university, I presume the university marketing is going to start putting this information on their website as well.
Yes, all part of the communication plan to work through them. Yes.
Just to kind of echo the gentleman's comments, so the date is not negotiable. In other words, it's August 1st. Even though the fiscal year ends August 31st. A lot of these expenses are going to fall within the last month of the fiscal Y15 year, which the CBS are not going to be very thrilled about it, but anyway. Any way to consider this a September takeoff? So it'll give a lot of faculty knowledge because they're not coming to town anyway.
Anything is possible. We were mainly trying to make sure that we had it launched before the fall semester starts, when the whole new crop of students come on campus, because they're having the biggest impact as well as far as their addressing go, because they were used to using the 77004 address. And so I can certainly take this back to our committee and ask if we can extend the launch date to September 1. Anything is possible, and I'll certainly take that back. You're welcome. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much, and thank you for fielding all the questions and giving some contact information. That'll be helpful. As building coordinators, please, if you have any questions, you know who you can contact about this. So please consider doing that. We started a little bit late, but we're going to end a little bit early. Our next meeting is going to be sometime in September. I haven't set the date yet, but we will get that information out to you, and we've already started the agenda for the next meeting. So thank you all so much. If you have any questions for any of our presenters, you can probably grab them before they head out. But thank you again. Have a good summer, and we'll see you in a couple of months. Thanks so much.